Because I'd like to, because I want to just.
Good evening and welcome to the February 11th, 2020 regular board meeting of the Roswell Independent School District. I now call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Whitcamp?
Alan Getty?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
Hope Morales?
Yes.
Mona Kurt?
Yes.
Bill DeSantis?
Yes.
We have a Pledge of Allegiance by Missouri Avenue Elementary students.
All right, good evening, everybody, and Superintendent Gottlieb and President Getty and members of the board. Thank you so much for letting us come on this wonderful, cold, snowy day. We've enjoyed it, by the way. And just to introduce our group here at Missouri Avenue, they are part of our student council at Missouri Avenue and are doing a wonderful job. We have Jasmine Bolaños, Cadence Bird, Brennan Bird, Chell Gomez, Jaylene Gomez, Lily Lucero, Adrian Bolaños, Aaliyah Velez Carmen, and Marazzi Villa. All right, are you guys ready? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you for coming. You guys did great. You did real good. Your hands are warm.
Great job, thank you.
Thank you,
Oh, aren't you adorable? Love your headband. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good job, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You may be seated. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Mr. President, members of the board, we need to pull the audit report. Our auditors could not come down from Albuquerque. They're snowed in, so we'll have to do that in the next board meeting in March.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried. Let's begin with some recognition.
Mr. President, members of the board, do we have someone here from the Assistance League? Okay, I kind of thought they wouldn't make it. Let me quickly go over what the Assistance League is for the audience and the board. The Assistance League started up around 50 years ago, and they've been helping dress our kids for the last 50 years. Our kids receive anywhere from $150 to $250 of new clothes and supplies to start the school year. This year they dressed 500, but my wife is part of that program, so I'm kind of, have dressed up to 900 kids in a year. These ladies work very hard. It's all donated items that they sell at their store, and then they go out and buy all new clothing, all new backpacks, coats, books, toiletry items, and they spend a tremendous amount of time and effort supporting our kids in the school district. So I was afraid that she wasn't going to make it because of the cold weather. She has a bad knee, so was not able to make it. The next one we have is Lynette Jordan, fourth grade teacher at Valley View. Come on up, Lynette. You're not going to get away that quick. Would you really tell us what is going on?
Okay, so I have been accepted as a teacher liaison to the Space Foundation. And the Space Foundation is an organization that kind of gathers all the different businesses and NASA and now I can't think of off the top of my head, but all these physicists and scientists who kind of collaborate and make space and outer space available to the world we live in. And so as a teacher liaison, I am a person in the school system who has access to more of a firsthand interaction with these people and these businesses, so that I can bring that information and those experiences into the classroom and help to get our students excited for outer space and the future, and so much more, so much potential and possibility.
I believe you're the second teacher from Valley View that's been able to do this?
Yes, that's actually very
So,
true.
Valley View has been on the
Yes.
forefront of this initiative
Yes, and
for
it-
many, many years. And you don't know who the other person did? It was, I call her Margaret, she goes
Yeah.
by
Peggy
Peggy.
Boland.
We go back about 31 years, so
Yes.
Margaret Boland or Peggy Boland was the other teacher.
Yes,
So
she inspired me to also go
I
this
kind of
route.
figured that.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, she and I are the only two in New Mexico. So that's also a great step.
Accomplishment,
So,
yes.
Ms. Jordan, thank you
Yes,
very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Mr. President, members of the board, our next one is a pleasure also for me to introduce is Randy Likens. I know he's not a stranger to the board, but Randy, will you come on up, please? And don't be bashful. Ha, ha, ha.
I'm probably not.
Randy, if you would mind, tell the audience and the board your CCAP program that was just honored at Roswell High.
Well, we're very blessed. About 3.5 years ago, Ruben Bolaños allowed me to pursue a program called the Capstone Program. And it's a program that's designed for gifted students and high achievers that will allow them to explore divergent thinking on a very measured basis. It's a skill-based program that allows them to just go out and go through and explore everything that they want to do under the guidance and the auspice of a very strong and good curriculum. And it's one of only 6 programs in the state now, and that it's also one of 1,800 worldwide. The Capstone Program is a program that more and more of your top colleges and universities are asking for. If you people that are doing their applying there on their information data, if they're in the a Capstone program, it's an AP deal where that if they complete both the AP seminar and the AP research, they have 6 hours of credit that go to any college in the world, and so that's very good. It's just an extremely beneficial program, and if they do the program of the seminar and the research, plus 4 other AP courses, which at Roswell High we have several of them, then they can graduate with a capstone diploma. And we were very fortunate this last year, or last summer, and then we got it this fall to where we got the banner at Roswell High that said this is a capstone diploma school. And we're very proud of that. And we certainly have that. We have a lot of interest and a lot of people and a lot of kids getting in here and working out very well. Last year, we started with the seminar. We had 16 take the AP test, and I believe it was 12 that passed it. So we're very excited about it, and it'll grow each and every year. And we've got a lot of support so far, and so it's been really good.
For the members of the board, Mr. Bolaños, Ruben, where are you hiding? It's kind of hard to miss you, Ruben, but I see you back there. He talked Randy to come back to school. He had already been retired, kind of like some of us back there with Mrs. Ponce, can't get it out of our blood. Came back and went back, got his certification to become a teacher, and has done a wonderful program for us at Roswell High. And I can't thank you enough for what you're doing for Roswell High.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. These kids are wonderful to work with. Thank you very much.
And it's
Mr.
obvious
Likens?
because, yeah, are you going to
Mr.
mention
Likens, I'm just gonna say that my daughter just absolutely loves your class.
Oh.
So
Yeah, she's
She's-
a great one.
she-
She keeps me on my toes.
keep saying stuff like that about her is okay, yeah. No.
We as a board received a letter from one of your students
Yes,
that
we
Dr.
did, just
Bonds
today.
forwarded
Oh, my gosh.
to us. And not only
You
that,
can tell him about it?
I was leaving that up to the board to make that decision. I don't know, Randy, you
Well,
know,
maybe good,
sometimes
maybe
that's a
bad,
good,
I
that's a
don't
good,
know.
that's a bad.
it was one of your students had written a letter in support that said that you were one of her, she encountered you, asked directions, and you said in here, she went in there into the classroom, you took her into the classroom, she said you were one of her favorite teachers.
Oh, that's
She said
good.
even your size did not intimidate her. She was overwhelmed by your generosity and how you connected with the kids and made her feel special, and she said she would never forget that.
Well, I have been very blessed. I've been there now, this is my 5th year back at Roswell High. And I have countless kids that still call me. We come in, we go out to dinner, and it's nice. And I have several of them that are in the Marine Corps like I was, and that's a lot of good. And so it's a lot of fun. It's an incredible time in my life. So I appreciate the opportunity.
And you're one of 6 masters in gifted education in the state?
Yes, ma'am.
In the state?
In the
Yes,
state.
ma'am.
One of 6
Yes, ma'am.
with the masters.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, did you? And thank you, Dr. Bonds, for sharing that information.
We will now have inquiries and general comments. Ms. Whitcamp, has anyone requested to speak?
Yes, sir, we have two.
Okay. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. Please do not discuss confidential personnel matters, including those of a disciplinary nature, regarding any RISD employee. This should be discussed with the superintendent or employee supervisor. Please self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. You may be given a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. If needed to accommodate a large number of speakers and maintain a reasonable meeting schedule, the time limit for all speakers may be shortened. No sharing of time is permitted. Public commentary and dialogue is only guaranteed during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issue during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. For the safety of yourself and others, signs and placards are not permitted in the boardroom. However, you are invited to express your concerns during public forum or submit your concerns to the board in writing.
Marcos Nava?
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. President Getty, and honorable board members, those watching us on YouTube and audience here. My name is Marcos Nava. I'm a 13-year-old, yes, I wish, 13-year resident of Roswell. 3 of my children graduated, went to elementary, middle school, and high school, graduated from Goddard High School. 2 of them were valedictorians. And my third one, my little one, graduated in Whites. They were all in university studies, and I want to thank the board, the teachers, for providing that education for them and preparing them for the future. And speaking about the future, I'm here to talk about the 2020 census. It's only like 30 days away when people in when people in Roswell are going to receive on the mail notice, excuse me, notice to go online or call in or mail in their census form. It is very important that all the residents, and this is a key word, residents fill out the census form, because for every person that is noted in the census form, the city of Roswell gets allotted through the federal government funding $3,745 for 1 year. You multiply that times 10, that's $37,745. Last census period, 33,000 people did not fill out the census form. They were not noted. So we lost altogether $112 million. Monies that could have gone for good use, for building the roads, for infrastructure, for helping the school needs, lunches, Medicare, helping the elderly have proper home housing. I beg you to please fill out the census. Whatever you put in the census is confidential. It cannot be shared with anyone for 72 years. So most of us will not be around. So don't worry about that, okay? There are 9 questions in the census. 9. The first one will ask you, how many people live in the home? And that's the most important question to fill out. The rest of the 8 questions, do your best. Be a good Boy Scout. Do your best and fill out whatever you can. Whatever you do, answer the first one, and if you answer any of the other 8 questions, just go ahead and turn in your census form. We have various different sites in the city and in the county that are available to help, and I will make sure that we get those information out into the community so people can go and will know where to go get information. Thank you for your time. We ask you that you please support the census, 2020 census. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Nava, real quick, I'd like to take a little leeway.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Gottlieb.
Mona, will you also add on to what you're doing with the committee within the schools?
So I was recruited to help to serve on the education committee. So I'm chair of the education committee. Thank you, Mr. Gottlieb. And my co-chair is Jennifer Cole, so she helps me out. But yes, we are working diligently. I kind of head up the committee, but Kathleen Galloway, Ralph Mata, Donna Roscion from the college, Hilda Peoples from the college, Colonel Terry from the Institute, Garvey, and oh my gosh, Tong. Gosh, I can't remember his last name.
Also
anyway,
from DC.
he also serves on the committee from the Institute. So with the combination of all of us, we're working to get the schools involved. This is the first time ever that the committee has actually involved schools and community and the county to get the census completed. So that's where we are.
Just wanted the members to know. Thank you, Mr. Nava, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Mr.
much.
Superintendent. Thank you very much.
Pauline Ponce.
Mr. Gottlieb, members of the board, I would ask a special request, Mr. Gottlieb, now that you're in the leadership, to strongly consider rescinding the late start Wednesdays immediately. There are a lot of parents that are struggling and have really been hurt by this decision that was abruptly dropped in their lap 2 weeks before school started. So if you were to do it now, it would really help parents dramatically because they're under a lot of hardships, have to leave work, have to be late at work, have to clock out of work in order for their kids to come to school. And so rescinding that for them would be really a godsend for them because they have really struggled with that late start. And hopefully you can do that immediately because that will help them. And you may say, well, we've got to take things into consideration. Well, there was no consideration when it was dumped in their lap. So it can be done. And I appreciate on behalf of the parents who are struggling with this particular mandate that was forced upon them actually. because they had no input. They didn't even know it was happening until they saw it in the paper or heard it by mouth. Would greatly appreciate that consideration for the parents and students of this school district. Thank you.
Don't leave, Ms. Ponce.
Yes.
May I say something? Ms. Ponce, we just today put on our webpage a survey for the parents regarding the late in, early out, and some choices in there and places for them to leave us some comments. So that is
Good.
now on the webpage for us
Good.
to gather information from the parents.
Well, hopefully the Roswell Daily Record will put a big sign on their headline and get on the website and state your input on that particular survey, because I know they have really been hurt by this,
Thank you, Mr.
economically too. Thank you.
Mr. Gottlieb, is it in Spanish? Would we able to, parents can answer in
It's on,
Spanish?
Mr. President, Ms. Sanchez, it's on SurveyMonkey. I'll have to check to see if we can translate that into Spanish on SurveyMonkey. I hate to say this, I don't know, but we will check tomorrow. Thank you very much. That's a good point.
Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, do we have some informational items?
Yes, we do, Mr. President, members of the board. The mayor was supposed to be here tonight to talk about the bond election, but we have somebody else that would like to talk to us, Jacob Roebuck. I think you know him.
And Chief Smith is
I was going to say, Chief, you need to come up too. It's a duo team here.
Yeah, I am Counselor Ward 1, City Council. I've been on council for 2 years now. It's been an interesting up and down journey. And in the down times, you know, I sometimes when I'm down, I think it could be worse. I could be on the school board. All kidding aside. On that note, I'll leave. All kidding aside, we really appreciate the work you guys put in. It's a hard job. It's, you know. And well, yes.
No kidding.
But we get paid a little bit, so. But we appreciate the work you guys do, and the school system, you know, is such just an important part of our community, you know, we appreciate having you guys as a partner in helping Roswell moving forward. So we're going to talk today about the public safety complex. This is a bond issue that is going to be in the election on March 3rd. I am personally for it. My main goal at this point, though, is really to give out information. We want to have informed voters. And so whether you decide to vote for it or against it, we want to make sure that you have accurate information. There's been a lot of emotional, political stuff about this, and we really want to kind of dial that down and really just say, hey, let's present the facts, let the vote, we've put it out to the voters for a reason, and let them decide if they want to move forward on this based on those things. So I'm going to go through this slideshow. This is the mayor's slideshow, so I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm going to go through it. And then I've got some other things I'll touch on. I'll try to move through it pretty quickly, but feel free to just stop me at any time and ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. So basically, what is the public safety complex? We're doing a $35 million bond to build a new complex and consolidate our public safety into one facility. It will include Fire Station 2, Fire Administration, the police department, dispatch. Right now, we can talk a little bit more about that. There's been a lot of debate about dispatch. The Emergency Operations Center, which, for those of you who don't know, is if we have a sort of a natural disaster or something, any kind of community emergency, that's the place where the folks come together to make the important decisions. Municipal court and code enforcement. These are the items that we are looking. These are the departments we're looking consolidating into a new facility. Why are we talking about this? Long-term value for our investment. We have a lot of really old buildings in the city, and we've been looking at that. We're going to look at some numbers here in a minute, but it costs a lot to maintain them. Some of them have a lot of delayed maintenance, and we got to a point where we're looking at the cost of these and saying, is it worth us putting money in these old buildings anymore, or is it time to build new? And so that's kind of, we're looking for that. So some of the buildings have safety issues. All the buildings are close to or if not past the end of their life cycles. And of course, old buildings have higher repair costs. They have higher energy costs, infrastructure issues. And so, as well as we want to present a good front for our public facing things. So we're looking for that value. We think we're going to be able to, it'll help us provide better services for the community. For one, just a centralized location, especially when you're dealing with anything from municipal court to get code enforcement, that kind of stuff. So it's one place for our citizens to go when they have following rule issues. I call them law issues, whether it's getting a permit or it's dealing with these guys, or everything in between. So to have the court in the same place as the police, there's a lot of benefits of that. And then create a better future for Roswell. This is something that is really important for me. You know, as you guys know, we are constantly. I mean, you guys deal with the teacher. We deal with police officers. Recruiting folks to Roswell can be a challenge, and even recruiting from Roswell can be a challenge. And we believe that, especially with the police force, but certainly with all of our places, that we need every advantage we can get. And a new facility. Especially to the younger generations, the environment you work in speaks volumes to them. And we want to be competitive in our recruiting. And so I think it helps us create a better future. It also provides opportunity. Our facilities right now they're kind of they're full, and we want to be sure that we've created space for growth. So I talked a minute ago about kind of the cost. In 2016, the city commissioned a study to figure out, okay, let's get on top of, we have all these buildings. We have probably 8, this was I think on ATM buildings, and I think over half of those were public safety buildings. And what is the estimated cost to bring these buildings up to code, to do the needed repairs? And so we had this assessment, and you can see right there, these buildings that are affected by what would be the new public safety complex, they need about $17 million or almost $18 million of repairs, and this is 2016 numbers. And so as we were looking at this back in 2016, or I was, but as the city was, we started to really dig into this discussion of what's the next step. What do we need to be doing with that? So you can see some of the ages of some of those buildings are some of them are very old. Of course, recently, Artesia has created a public safety complex, and we've looked at their model, and it's a different. We can borrow some ideas from this, kind of as a baseline. We shouldn't borrow too much from this, though, because it really is, in some ways, it's very different, because they have state police in there, they have their sheriffs, they've got a lot of different elements that it's a different mix of people. But as far as the facility goes, we looked at that facility, and they have 16 acres. The area we're looking at is closer to around 9 acres, and so we kind of use this as kind of okay, how would this even look? How would it work? And so it was one of the places that when we started kind of putting together numbers, we looked at. So I'm going to skip this because I've got a better slide on that in a minute. Something else we looked at, of course, too, is what is our tax load. Now, I'm pretty fiscally conservative, and taxes to me are a drain on our economy. And so if we're going to spend taxes, we better be sure we better be sure that it's a solid investment. We better be sure that we can afford it. And so, as you can see by these charts, we have a pretty our geo debt and our geo and GTR debt per capita is one of the lowest among the major communities in our state. And so we feel like that we're not reaching out there too far. We're not pushing us out there beyond our capacity. Of course, this is a big question people have: is what's the financial impact to you? And this is the mayor's slide, and I think this is one way to look at it. I'll give you a different perspective in a minute, but let me do the mayor's perspective right here. So basically, we're looking at a property tax increase. So if you have a $100,000 home, you're going to be paying an extra $118 a year per $100,000 value of your house. That's the most basic way to break that down. The way that I broke it down, because I felt like this was a little confusing, is the first year that this kicks in, if you will get a 17% increase in your property tax. That is a serious investment we were asking the community to make, and we don't take that lightly. I know that sometimes you kind of get in this for a cup of coffee a day, and we want people to realize that what we're asking for them is to make a sacrifice to make their community better. So now, over time, this bond is heavy on the front and it backs off. It's an 18-year bond. As you can see, the rate falls down. So it starts at 17%. Again, these are using the way I like to put them. And then it goes down to, I believe, 14, then 13, then it tapers off towards the end. And so and eventually, then it does retire. This is not a bond that automatically renews. Or that even we can renew it without a vote of the citizens. So it does have a sunset clause on that. These are the current locations of where some of the stuff is located now. Of course, you can see the railroad on there. We can talk about that a little bit. But you got fire prevention's way down south. Fire Station 2, dispatches at county, municipal court, our emergency operating center right now, which is really just the closet. Is up there at the fire station that's behind Target, and so and the police department is there on Second, and so we want to consolidate all of these into a public safety complex. It'll be somewhere in the area right there on the map. We want to put it east of the tracks, as close to the main thoroughfares as possible. Specifically, 2nd Street and Garden is the area. There are a couple potential locations in there that we're looking at. Some is private land, some is public land that we have right now, and so we're looking at those as a primary place. We haven't selected a final site yet, and certainly that's something that we'll be taking more input. Should we move forward with this, we'll be taking more input from the community on that as well. But we like that side of being on the tracks for a couple of reasons. Number one, and there's been of course a lot of debate about this if you've been following this at all, but the rail traffic in the town has been increasing, and we are worried about not having a fire station on that side of the tracks. Now, of course, it's important to respond to fires, but fires make up 10 to 15% of the calls our fire station responds to. Most of the other 90 to 85% are medical related, heart attacks, strokes, and in those kind of situations, seconds count. And so if you have even if you're just slightly delayed there at the track, it can meaning between life and death. And so we really want to get a fire station on that side of the tracks. Also too, and then of course this is one of these things that pendulum swings. In the past, the trend for fire stations has been to put them in neighborhoods. And you notice that most of our fire stations are off the main thoroughfares. The pendulum has swung back the other way, and now the trend is we want them on main thoroughfares, and we really want to get our main fire station, and this will become the main fire station on a major thoroughfare. And so that's one of the reasons. Another reason is that I think some of the councilors are excited about this particular location is we want to make sure that as we're investing in building properties in different areas, we want to make sure that we're spreading out investments to all the neighborhoods. And certainly coming in there on East 2nd, we feel like that if the city invested there, it would be a shot in the arm for that as well. A lot of those buildings are older. There hasn't been any new development in there outside of, I think, there's a new Family Dollar, but outside of that, there hasn't been a lot done over there. And so we want to inject that money and that value into that neighborhood. So that is the quick overview. I do have one more slide that let me jump on. This is from yeah, there it is. Great. So this is from, and I'm going to leave these documents for you. I've got 3 for you. This is the Yes Campaign document. I also have the document the city has created, and then a couple of counselors and myself, Henderson and Foster, myself, we went ahead and did our own independent report because we felt like it was important we just wanted to make sure that the information was getting out there in a way that we felt was portrayed accurately. So we spent time with city staff and making sure we went over all the numbers with them and kind of went through our whole explanation of why we thought this was important. Also, too, is we really wanted to dial down, the Yes Campaign chose a slogan that was stand with first responders. And I think that unintentionally that got turned into a false dichotomy, which is something I learned in high school. Got turned into a false dichotomy, which is saying that if you don't vote for this, you're against first responders, and nobody thinks that's true. We want people to make an educated guess, but a lot of people have asked, well, what is this facility going to look like? The city staff, city management, city manager decided that we wanted to get this funded first before we spent significant money doing the planning, et cetera. And I equate it to getting it pre-approved for a home loan. You know the size of home you need, you know how many kids you have, you know the general size, and so you know basically the amount of money that you're going after. But you will get pre-approved, and then you'll go out there and figure out the fine details, and that's kind of where we are in that process. It's a little different, and there are pros and cons to that approach, but it is the approach that for this bond that the city manager decided on, because again, he was hesitant to invest a lot of money. If you go to City Hall, we have shelves and shelves of plans, designs, master plans, studies that have not been used, and it does take a lot of time and energy, and so we want to make sure that we have a limited amount of that and that we're using it well. So as you can see up here, police station is the largest component of this new facility. Should it get funded? Current 36,000 square feet. We want to, on average, grow these things about 30% growth, because we want these buildings to have a 50 to 75 year lifespan. And we feel that is a reasonable expectation that the city in the next 50 years will grow that much. And so you can see right now, if we were fully staffed, we would have 98 officers. And we anticipate, wanting to, at some point in the future, to get that up, and this facility to be able to house up to 130 officers to capacity that growth. Fire Station 2, there's some growth involved in that as well. Fire Station 2 is a very old facility, and modern facilities are larger. Municipal Court, again, it's got some growth in there. Fire Marshal's already in plenty enough big building. They don't need any growth. And then bringing over the fire administration, they're currently housed at Fire Station 1, which would stay a fire station, but the administration would come over, and as well as some of their equipment would come over as well. The Emergency Operations Center, again, it really doesn't exist. We have a closet full of equipment right now that we throw on a conference table, so that would be new. There's been a lot of talk about dispatch, and certainly there are differing viewpoints out there. There's been some political banter about dispatch, where it should be. And I think the best thing I can tell everybody on that issue is this, is that in spite of the political back and forth, what's going to happen is we're going to get the experts, the people, the first responders from the county and the city, we're going to get them together in a room. They're going to work this out. They're going to figure out what is the best for our community. And if for some reason whichever, we'll be ready to put dispatch in this building if that's what they decide makes the most sense. But it's not going to be decided. It's going to be decided by the people who this affects on a daily basis and who can really have the qualified to make that decision for that. So if we're not, we just reduce. If we decide not to put it there, we just reduce the debt a little bit and don't add the space. So code enforcement. I'm really excited about code enforcement moving into this building personally. We need to do a lot better job with making code enforcement friendly. It's a very business thing, and so I'm really excited about giving them a fresh place to get into. And so there you can see the total square footage, the cost per square footage. The number we used was 315. I'm not an expert on that. That's what the experts told me was the proper square footage price for this type of building. You can see the soft costs in there. Of course, you guys have done plenty of buildings. You know that the building is one thing, but then you got to put stuff in it. Parking, land, contingency, and so that's where you see that $33 million and change. I'm hoping we can do it for less than that, but that's I think it kind of breaks it down for you about what we're talking about going into that building. My last comment, and then I'll let the chief maybe say a couple words if he wants to, since he came out tonight.
I never went home.
Yeah. I'll ask the chief to speak on one issue, but my last comment is, as a city councilor, and I said this at the beginning, but this is very serious. To raise people's taxes is very serious. Property taxes especially is serious, and we take this very seriously. That's why we put it to the voters. I hope people consider it. For me, my personal position, if we don't do this, we're going to spend more money. We're going to be throwing good money after bad. It's time to do this, and the bill's going to come due. Let's take care of it now. Let's reap the benefits of it, and let's move forward as a city. So the other commitment that I've made personally, and the other councilors who signed this document, is that a lot of these buildings will be vacated and we'll no longer need them for city purposes. We will sell those, and myself and the other councilors are committed to using those proceeds to pay this loan down versus turning them into some sort of slush fund for bureaucrats to use for who knows what. So those are my comments. Again, I'll leave this. These different from the city, from the Yes campaign, and then our report that myself and the other councilors came up with. I do like the chief to speak to the other issue that's come up that I think is, after talking to the experts, I think that it's not an issue, but I did want the chief to speak to it, is the police and fire being in the same facility together. Because I think a lot of people have said that's a problem. I've talked a lot about that with a lot of the different professionals, but I'll let the chief speak to that. So, Chief Smith.
If any of you don't know, I'm Phil Smith. I'm your police chief. I wanted to say something else before that as well, though. There's also speculation that we're kind of like ambushing the city with this, with a huge project, and all of a sudden it came out of nowhere. Well, I was named chief Halloween 2013. About 12 months later, I sent my deputy chief to Orlando, Florida, for a seminar on planning and constructing public safety facilities. So we have had our eye on this building is beyond its use. It's never been purposed as a police department. It is a bank. And it was 30 years old when we moved into it 30 years ago. It has ailments, as any aging structure will. And it's going to increase in cost to continually utilities, efficiency, repairs, and we all know contracting costs and everything goes up. So we had this in mind, but public safety, we're not really in tune with our structure. I mean, it keeps the rain off our head, but what we do is we're public service. We're out there with the people taking care of the community, so you don't hear them whining about their building. And of course, we call up and say, hey, the ceiling caved in, so there's an issue there. But my point is that this isn't an ambush. We've been preparing for the day when we had an opportunity and we'd be ready for it. So, I mean, luck is where preparation meets opportunity. So we were preparing for it. We weren't pushing it. This is a conservative community and a lot of blue-collar people, and this is tough. Taxes are brutal. I pay taxes. Back east, all they had was real estate taxes where I grew up. There wasn't anything. 48% of the population, or 46% paid for everything. Anyways, and the other thing, that $17 million, I always want to point this out, that comes out of the operating budget. That can be repurposed for training, equipment, salaries, whatever you want to repurpose it for, because now you're not going to have to attribute all of it to maintenance and repairs. This bond is kind of like you're going, and the other thing is wherever you drop this building, you're going to improve the property values. And there are some areas in town that could use it. And the other thing is, this isn't our building, it's the community's building. It makes your community more valuable. It makes your community more attractive to businesses and new people that want to come in. And I project this place is going to explode. It's only a matter of time before the people back in the Northeast realize there's only 4 bad days of weather here. And you're going to get it.
And it's all one day.
The other thing that the Councilor Robeck wanted me to go over is the relationship between the fire department and the police department. First of all, we're all brothers and sisters. One of them is hurt, we're hurt. One of us is hurt, they're hurt. We work very well together. We have the same goal in mind. We are public service, we are public safety. We just have different routes. I mean, we look to them when we need them, and they look to us when they need us. And it's a very good relationship. And the benefit of this building is to have us in the same building. You have 2 command staffs. We're going to be able to share. We could share clerical people. We could share techniques. We can share tactics. Not all of them, but there is definitely mutual training between us. And not that we don't do it now, and being in the same building will make it magically better, but it will make it more convenient. And if you build these, the thing about these buildings, if a community can do it, these multi-purpose buildings will cost you less to build, to maintain, and what you're doing is you're making a one-stop shopping center. I mean, Walmart's killing everybody because you can go in there for pharmaceuticals, you can go buy tires, grocery shop, whatever you need. Well, your public safety center is you don't have somebody come in and go, you know what, this guy's, I'll give you a perfect example. This guy, my neighbor, has his cars are parked, and there's an R in that. His cars are parked on the lawn. And I want to know if the police has to do that. And they go, no, if they're on the lawn, that's going to be code enforcement. So you're going to have to go down the street, take a right, whatever, go to the back door to get to the office. No, now we'd say, let me call him over. He'll come across the hallway or whatever it is. And the other significance of this is a lot of these buildings weren't purposed as police structures. The Muni Court is not meant to be a municipal court. And there are logistical problems in there with how you travel in there, how you move prisoners. Same thing with the bank. And I'll tell you this, the bank is the best building I've ever worked in. It's beautiful. That should tell you. Back east, my former brothers and sisters back there did not play the game correctly. They were not humble. They were arrogant. They tried to crucify the community. They're still in the same building. 1963 building, not up to code. That's the way it goes. So we're very humble, we're very appreciative, and if we get this opportunity, we're gonna feel blessed. And it's not a want, it's a need. It really is. But I will tell you this, hear me here, if it doesn't happen, it's not gonna stop what we do. We're still your sheepdogs. We'll still look after everybody. I'll field any questions if anybody wants to bot me, and if not, I'm gonna go home.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah, any questions?
No.
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jacob.
Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Cole?
Yes, sir. Superintendent Gottlieb, Board President, Mr. Getty, members of the board. Thank you. We have an information item regarding Rotary International four-way test essay contest. So we're very blessed in this community to have the community support. One of those service organizations, of course, is Rotary and Rotary International. And so the Roswell Rotary Club for the past few years has been sponsoring not only food backpack programs that go home with our students and their families in need on the weekends, which they've been paying for, but they've also sponsored an essay contest to our 8th grade students, recognizing the importance of our culture, our community, and the things we think about and model for our students. So one of the big things with Rotary, if you've never been or never visited, or if you have been and have visited, that you notice right off the bat is they recite the four-way test. And that's what this essay contest is. And the four-way test is just a test of how do we deal with one another on a daily basis in our interactions. So the first one is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to everyone concerned? So fortunately, the last 3 years, we've had a gentleman with Roswell Rotary Club that has done an outstanding job of promoting this with our 8th grade students, getting them to think about it and write about it. And they've also done some really neat things in terms of prizes and incentivizing that. So if I could introduce to you and have him speak to that program a little bit, Mr. Chris Louderman with Roswell Rotary Club.
Superintendent Board, thank you for having me here tonight, and Mr. Cole, thanks for inviting me to speak on this. I won't restate a lot of what Mr. Cole just said, but we are very appreciative that you are letting us into the schools and having access to the 8th graders to give them this opportunity. This four-way test, it's something that as Rotarians we think about when we're facing a difficult decision in life, when we have a conflict. And we're introducing this to them now, and this essay contest, we're getting them to think about it. What does this test mean to you? How would you apply it in your daily life? Can you think of a situation where it would have been useful? And that's what the essay contest is really about. And we're really wanting them to get to think about these things before they get to high school, that they'll be in this mindset, that when they do face and will face ethical issues in school, that they will have a toolbox on how to handle them. So traditionally, we select 3 winners out of the 8th grade students, and we invite them all to come to a Roswell Rotary meeting. They get up and have a little bit of a public speaking class, in that they have to read their essays to the club. We give monetary prizes to first, second, and third place, and the first place winner gets their entry submitted to our district competition, where they compete against students from all over the state and El Paso. So again, I just wanted to thank you all for giving us that access, and we look forward to working with you all in the future on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the board, we have one more thing, and I had divided this in half. I think I'm going to have to divide it in quarters. We have a lot of testing information that has not gone over this year. We need to share that with everybody. We need to share the amount of testing that teachers are giving students and what is going on. It's too much for tonight. So what we're going to do is, I also had a report on counselors and nurses. It's been one of those things on our radar, particularly for our building principals and our teachers with some of the issues that we're facing in the school district. So real quick, I want to have Ken come up and present for us elementary counselors and also the nurses program. So
Yes, it's just an informational item so we can get an overview of the district. Right now, currently, Roswell ISD has 6 elementary counselors. Each counselor serves 2 schools. The last recent hire will eventually serve 2 schools as well. Future goal, keeping in mind social and emotional health of our students and our teachers as well. Our goal is to have a counselor at every elementary school. That's a long-term goal. Counseling curriculum. The counselors have a new curriculum purchased. It's called Think First, Stay Safe. Their curriculum was selected and reviewed by a committee made up of nurses, a behavior specialist, counselors, and clinical social workers. So there was a lot of input on that in selecting this curriculum. It is aligned to evidence-based practices and Aaron's Law. So just to give you a kind of idea of the curriculum that the nurses are implementing in the elementary schools. Counseling curriculum implementation, just to make sure that we have a good information flow. Parent letters will be sent out explaining the curriculum by grade level. Parents will have an opportunity to view overall modules. The parent letter has been given to nurses, principals, and directors to preview overall modules. So again, we want to have a lot of input from all stakeholders, and the parents have the final say-so and can look at the modules. A parent guidebook will accompany the letter. The parent guidebook is available in English or Spanish. The guide has topics for grade levels for further family discussion, and I think that's a really good idea to involve the family within the curriculum. Let's get some discussion going at home as well. The counselor's responsibilities. Counselors are responsible for threat assessments that need to take place, working with individual students and groups as the need arises. So it's not a day-to-day, they're not sure exactly what they're going to get when they come in every day. Setting classroom time for classroom bullying and Think First and Stay Safe curriculums.
Ken, real quick on that issue,
Yes, sir.
the PED has in front of a format where we can send in comments, but they are changing a lot of the wording on bullying and cyberbullying and some of those issues that are now up for discussion. So that's one of the things that the board's going to have to go back and re-look at our policies in that and match what the state's required. And they are giving us, once they're adopted, they'll give us only 90 days to get it done before it's implemented. So that timeline's going to be real short. Thanks, Ken. Sorry.
It's good we have a team already in place that has been looking at this, forward thinking. Peer mediation, helping the students to solve their own problems. Attending other meetings as well. You know, we have a lot of responsibilities. Counselors training and professional development. 5 of these counselors attended wraparound training at CASA. 2 of the counselors traveled to Albuquerque for oppositional, defiant, and disruptive children and adolescents. And 2 of the counselors, other counselors, traveled to Alamogordo for training on strategies for overcoming adverse childhood experiences. I think you can look at those last 2 and see that this is an ongoing need, possibly a growing need, and they bring their training back and of course share it with the rest of the counselors so that it can be implemented across the district. Roswell is very fortunate to have our elementary counselors. I think they're doing an awesome job. I think everyone would echo that. As far as our nursing, we went to Katie McLean, 8 years with RISD, and she's our nursing supervisor. Elementary nursing staff. Currently, we have full-time nurse at 10 out of the 12 elementary schools. 2 elementary schools are right now sharing a nurse, so there's only 1 vacancy. 1 substitute nurse is available for needs throughout the district, and a requisition has been turned in to fully staff all elementary schools so that we can have that last position, and we'll have 1 at every school. Secondary nursing staff. The comprehensive high schools, the large schools, Roswell and Goddard, each have a full-time nurse. Brenda Middle, Mesa Middle, Sierra Middle each have a full-time nurse, and the other secondary schools, 1 nurse is available for University, Early College, and Mountain View down there on the south side. And RISD will have 1 more nurse on staff later this month. That's a good news. And RISD truly appreciates the service that Nurse McLean and the school nurses provide. I think a lot of times their efforts are unsung. They're in the background, but they are providing for the health and well-being of our students. And I think, kudos to all of the staff members.
Questions from the
Yes.
school board?
Yes. So many years ago, we had a counseling curriculum. Is this the same curriculum, or has it been updated?
Well, this is a new curriculum that they're looking at, an updated one. I know in the past, the counselors had a curriculum that they implemented as they went into the classrooms. So this is I'm not gonna speak to everything. Andrea was snowed in, so she couldn't be here. But this Think First, Stay Safe curriculum is a newer one that they're gonna be using.
Okay, and they'll hit each classroom once, twice? What's
That I can tell you as far as the schedule.
Mona, on that issue, one of the things that is on our radar is we need to get more counselors to help with the issues that we're facing in the classroom. There's no doubt about that issue.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, at this point in time, with the counselors that we have, they're dealing with the other issues within the buildings and have not been able to get in as much as we used to in the past.
So it's not mandated?
It's not mandated.
Okay.
There are some new regulations coming out on nursing that the board's going to have to adopt, and there are also some on counselors. So there's quite a few changes that are going to be coming up in that issue. As we move forward, that's one of those at-risk things we've got to look at for our staff and particularly for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, go ahead, Hilda.
Mike, did the nurses take care of all this program before the counselors were asked to do it? Did the nurses take care of the program themselves? Not
No.
ever?
No. Their charge is very different in the dealing, particularly when you're dealing with medications and stuff. One of the issues that we'll be facing as a school district is there will be the medical cannabis coming down in our schools. And that's one of those other things that is coming up that we'll have to have. And the storage of medication is a very critical thing, and it can only be accessed by one person. And that's a lot of times what the nurses are spending. Plus, they help with the eye checkups and physical checkup. And unfortunately, the CYFD referrals a lot of times come from our nurses. They are also a lot of the times the ones that call the Assistance League for school, for clothing for our kids. So their job is quite busy, just like everybody else. But thank you. Yes, sir.
And did I see that right, that right now we're missing a nurse at elementary and secondary, and we're going to hire
We're
two
going
nurses?
to get this in place.
Good.
I have a plan for the board later on. We can discuss on counselors down the road.
And I had two quick questions. For the counseling curriculum, is that for kindergarten through 12th grade, or is it focused on elementary?
Elementary.
Elementary?
Elementary.
Okay. And then we said that the goal is to have a counselor at every school, but what is our timeline for that goal?
That's going to be up for discussion. First, we've got to see what our requirements are by budget. And to me, it's an at-risk issue, so we're going to have to look around. Will we be able to hire 6 within this next year? Probably not. But I'd sure like to see 3 or 4. With the issues that our building principals and teachers are facing and the number of things that we're having to do, I think it's a critical thing that we get in and provide more help. The other part of this is on the secondary. They've been receiving a lot of training too. A lot of times they deal with scheduling and knowing kids, getting them into CTE courses and correct classes, but we're going to have to do a better job with doing some group counseling and some of the other things that are going on, unfortunately, in our communities. Thank you. If nothing else, we'll move on. We'll save some testing data for next time.
Okay.
I don't want to bore everybody and have you go to sleep on me.
All right, well, let's move on to some fun stuff. The approval of the minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of January 14th, 2020, regular board meeting of January 14th, 2020, and special board meeting of January 21st, 2020.
Are there any corrections, deletions to the minutes? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried.
James. Mr.
James did,
Edwards.
Mr. Edwards, sorry, I should have said that. Consent agenda.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the consent agenda to approval of the January bills, authorization of the February bills, approval of the February bar, and temporary cash transfer.
Any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Sanchez, is that who said that?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Now we have approval of the 2019-2020 Notice of General Obligation Bond Sale and Delegation of Authority Resolution.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2019-2020 Notice of General Obligation Bond Sale and Delegation of Authority Resolution.
Is there any discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Ms. Morales. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Brendo Middle School purchase of pencil pouches and headphones with a $500 Walmart grant.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Brindle Middle School purchase of pencil pouches and headphones with the $500 Walmart grant.
Is Miss Edwards here?
No.
Mr. Edwards is.
Tracy
Miss
Edwards.
Miss Hillman, you mean?
Ms. Hillman.
Miss Hillman's not here tonight.
Who's Miss Edwards?
Tracy Edwards.
wanted to just mention that anybody has the same opportunity to apply for that grant.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Sanchez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Edwards. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. RHS Key Club to District Convention in Phoenix, April 3rd through the 5th, 2020.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Roswell High School Key Club to District Convention in Phoenix of April 3rd through the 5th on 2020. Before we have a motion, if you have any questions, we have some students, and I believe the teachers here too.
Yes,
Yes,
Miss
get up.
Madrid. Mhm. Yes, please.
Come on up, tell us something.
us. What it is.
Absolutely.
Speak to us.
Fill us in.
Before she gets up and talks, I just want to give Miss Madrid a little kudos. And we got a lot of teachers doing this. I just can't tell you how impressed with the teaching staff. I usually leave pretty late. Miss Madrid knows that, but I have noticed on every Friday and Saturday, they're here from, when do you get here, Kim, 5?
We're here from 5 to 9, and then Saturday we come back from 9 to 4. We're a cohort of counselors
And
that are taking classes.
they spend a tremendous amount of time getting this extra license when we can have more counselors in our schools, and it's hard to find. So it's a wonderful group. I've been able to go in there and tease them a little bit and thank them for being here. So, Kim, I'm sorry I had to throw that at you.
We'll be done in a year and a half, so.
Okay.
There's 5 of us, be looking for us. This is my key, well, part of my key club, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Julia Russell. I'm the president this year, and this is my 4th year in Key Club, and my 3rd, if we get to go, my 3rd year at district. I'm Alyssa Garola. I'm a senior at Roswell High. This is my 2nd year in Key Club, and this will be my 2nd year to go to decon. My name is Desiree Peralta. I'm a senior, and I'm secretary, and I've gone to decon once, so this will be my 2nd time. I'm Maria Herrera. I'm a junior, and this is my 1st year in
Key Club.
I'm Simon Castillo. I'm a freshman. This will be my 1st year.
Nice.
Very cool.
So Key Club is a community service organization group. We go out to the community and we do different things. We volunteer a lot at Waymaker. We've done a lot of things with the city. And we're also on the theme to accept a donation from Grace Farm. We went out and we helped with the
haunted
cornets. They called us, they're like, we're giving you money. Okay, thank you. So district, they go, they learn leadership skills, they have a fun time. $285, which is conference fees, meals, and the hotel.
Very cool.
Anything else you guys like to add?
This year alone, we've gotten service projects that equaled up to about over 170 hours.
Nice.
So our requirement for going to decon is you have to have at least a 2.0 or higher. Your grades have to be good. You have to have at least 30 hours. So everybody's had that chance because in October alone, we had over 60 hours of community service, and then just a little more during the summer, and then in the other months.
There's about 20 that have requested to go.
That's cool. Awesome. You guys doing any fundraisers for your 285?
Yes, right now we're doing Batman's beef jerky.
Oh,
Good.
okay.
Very good.
All right.
Sorry,
And
would you
Alyssa,
like
you
to
haven't
buy
even.
any? I
Well, there's a sales lady for you.
Good job, good job.
Kim, you taught him well. All right, no other questions. I already made my motion.
Any other questions? All right, then may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Ms. Sanchez.
Ms. Sanchez. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have fun. GHS band trip to Seagraves, Texas.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the GHS band trip to Seagraves, Texas for the indoor percussion, indoor guard competition, and we have the teacher here. Come on down. You didn't bring your mom and dad, I'm surprised.
No, they left for a reason, Mike.
Thanks.
So I'm happy to answer any questions and expand on anything, but I'll try and keep this fairly brief. So essentially, we've started something new at Goddard High School this year, which is an indoor drumline indoor guard. For those of you less familiar with band terminology, the guard are the ladies and gentlemen who spin the flags at the football games. And so basically we do a small indoor for each of them. So the guard has a program and percussion has a separate program. We do a small indoor marching show. And there's a competition circuit in West Texas that covers a great deal. But we spoke to the circuit and they're going to let us participate in this one event at Seagraves this year as we're kind of kicking off this program. And so that's what this is. Like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions or expand, but I don't want to waste everybody's time with.
Mr. Everett, a demonstration sometime would be good.
Interesting location.
Yes, that's just where it is. So it's centered around. So they have a north region and a south region. The north region is centered around Lubbock. The south region is centered around Midland. For this particular circuit, the Caprock Color Guard Circuit is the official title of it, and basically it's whatever school is willing to host and then has the facilities, i.e. 2 full-size gyms that are accessible for percussion equipment and things like that. So obviously you wouldn't be able to do a show like this. The tarps alone, if you've never had to move a gym floor tarp, are about 400 to 600 pounds. And so, you have to have some accessibility and some things like that. And so Seagraves happens to be one of the locations that has a facility that meets all those needs. And the directors there are willing to organize it. And so that's why it's in Seagraves, Texas. If you don't know where that is, it's like you're going to Lubbock, you go through Tatum, and then instead of turning left in Brownfield, you turn right in Brownfield, and it's that way. So anyway.
Cool. Okay. Any other questions? Sounds like a very loud thing to me. Indoor percussion. I'm getting older. If there is no discussion, do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion made by Ms. Morales, a second made by Ms. Kirk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it and the motion is carried.
Thank you all.
Good,
Thank you.
thanks.
Congratulations.
Next, we have the GHS FFA trip to Texas Tech.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the GHS FFA trip to Texas Tech. Do we have the representative?
He is not here.
He's not here. I didn't see it. Okay.
Do we have any discussion? Okay, if we do not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk, a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. We have a donation of $1,200 to RHS Key Club from Graves Farms.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the donation of $1,200 to Roswell High School Key Club from Graves Farm, and they just left.
They just left. And they told us. Any other discussion? If not, may I have a motion to approve?
Right here.
I have a motion made by Mr. James. Any
Second.
second made by Ms. Sanchez? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have a donation of $1,000 to Mesa Middle School soccer teams from Target Youth Soccer Grants Program in conjunction with Scholarship America.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of a donation of $1,000 to the Mesa Middle School soccer team from Target Youth Soccer Grant Program in conjunction with the Scholarship of America. Marcos, do you have the person here today? You just you. Vente pa acá, señor. I hate to tell you this, but he was one of my students too. We go back a long time. The other one left. He didn't want to be brought up here. Any questions for him?
Any questions? This be used for equipment or?
Yeah, it'll be used for equipment. There's only two things we can use it for, is equipment and training.
Oh,
So
training.
I talked with the coaches, and they agreed that it should all go to the students, so.
Good, very cool. All
And-
right.
Mr. President, just in case Mr. Franco leaves before the end of the meeting, I just wanted to give a shout out to Mesa Middle School. 8 students from his school applied for our Equity Council, so that is pretty awesome that every student application we had for that came from Mesa. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
Did that come from your AVID program?
Yes, they are from the AVID program.
That figures.
Right.
That figures. That's a great program.
Since you brought that up, can I mention something about AVID?
Sure.
This weekend, the New Mexico State Legislature made February 15th National or AVID Day for New Mexico. They also invited Mesa Middle School to go up there to speak to the legislature on behalf of AVID. So I'll have 2 students presenting, as well as myself and my AVID teacher that'll be representing the entire state.
Very cool.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very much so. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And in regards to Rotary essay, Mesa won first, second, and third last year, and we're going to do it again.
Any discussion about the action item? Okay, if not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
You guys are like, I don't know. Okay, I have a motion made by Mr. Edwards, a second made by Ms. Morales. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have policy 0900, board organizational meeting, second reading. Is anybody else's computer even working at this
It
point?
just went on.
Yeah.
Okay, look at mine just did too. They've been updating for like 20 minutes, Royce. So, anyway, so we have, this organizational meeting, second reading.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of policy B-0900, board organizational meeting. This is a second reading.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I have some concerns to some language that we've added to the end of that policy. Some new language was there, and it reads, "No board member may be considered for election to the position of president unless that member has fully completed at the time of election all NMSBA required training for new board members." I think it is up to the board to elect a new president, no matter whether it is a new member or a veteran member. I think that can be done so by the votes of the board. Also, I know Hilda and myself are the newer members, and we will have reached the minimum requirements. So far, what has been indicated is we have 12 hours of credits for our training, and that does not include the training we just had last month. So when we include that in there, we're all going to be eligible for that. Therefore, I don't think that language is needed to be added in there.
So, this language was added into the policy because when I first got on the board 4 years ago, well, almost 4 years ago, there were some issues that had arisen from some board members that, when we elect office every 2 years, this became an issue with some of my colleagues up north. And they indicated that some board members had run for the election to come in and take over, and they had an agenda. And even though they had no experience, they hadn't even completed their 5 hours, they wanted their agenda met. So they came in and took over and elected board president, vice president, and secretary, the 3 with the 2 already in. And the board president at the time was really adamant and said, please, just take some time, learn boardmanship. Boardmanship, being on the board is very difficult. It's a very difficult position. You have to learn boardmanship. And it's not like sitting on any other board ever. So then as we attended our institute in January in Albuquerque, and plus I did some research on this. I did contact our director, School Board Association, and talked with him. And at the time, he said it was great. He thought it was great policy, but he wasn't willing to go forward. We do have statute that says we have to have 5 hours completed. And not all board members do that, but there are no repercussions. So having said that, we as a board of directors decided, well, when Mr. Edwards got on and several of us, there wasn't any training. It's just the 5 hours we received, and it's really not significant. So we as a board of directors asked, is there any way we can work with CES to incorporate more board training to get more experience for those coming on? Because boardmanship is so different. And so they decided at that time we would work with CES and institute board and require new board members, newly elected board members, to go through the 16 hours of training. And it's really, the way I look at it, it's an insurance policy for our district. When you've got 3 brand new board members coming on, and it will actually help you two moving forward, because in 2 years you're going to lose 3 board members, perhaps not. It's hard to tell. But when you start establishing policy and start establishing norms and the way the board works, you want to continue that. You want to move forward in a positive direction. But when you have other people coming on with different agendas, it's difficult to continue that continuity with those new board members coming on. So it's kind of like an insurance policy that makes sure the board works in unity, and that the board members elected have to achieve those hours in order to hold that one particular office. And as I visited with some of my other colleagues that sit on the board also, they said the exact same thing. There's people coming on that have no idea. They just want that position for some reason, and they don't want to learn first from the veterans and then grow. And then I want everybody to hold that seat. I think when I first got on, I know when we were elected, it was a 2-year term. And I thought that was too long. Everybody on the board needs to experience sitting in that chair. And that was really my drive for asking, and I did. I asked for this policy to be implemented and to look at it because of all the other issues that I've heard around the state from the veteran board members. And I just think it's good policy. It's an insurance policy for all of us as we move forward.
Mr. President, I feel that this was the mandatory training that we all attended, and I think that this language that has been added, I'm in favor of striking it out. and just leave it as it was.
Any other discussion?
The only other thing that I want to add in, whenever I think about the board president, or really any of us in these roles, is that we're not bringing an agenda to the table. When I ran, while I served, there's no agenda behind it. And when I think of a board president, to me, that's an individual who should really help facilitate and help us collaborate with working with each other and the superintendent. And I think that can be done.
Absolutely. But it prevents anybody coming on that does have an agenda. I'm not saying anybody here did, or that's our goal, but that is like an insurance policy again to prevent.
James?
I'll do it. I want to talk to
James, you got anything?
You know, when we start talking about agendas, and I'm gonna tell you
Keep it focused on this.
Hey, I'm gonna keep it focused on this. You know, I'm always the wild card. I'm always the person that's looking at it from a different perspective. And I look at it, you know, hey, I haven't been an educator. I'm part of the system by going to school here, but I'm not part of I don't want to say the swamp, but I will say the swamp. And the reason I'm saying that is because, you know, since I've been coming to these board meetings and now that I'm part of the board, when I talk about agendas, and I hear people talking about agendas, I've never had an agenda, ever. My agenda, if anything, is to be the best board member I can and to support the kids and the staff in our district. And that's what I've always been about. I'm one of those people, when I first came in, I saw agendas. I saw it, it was right there in front of me. I think one of the things that I think what we ought to do is we really need to look at this policy, because it really surprised me when I read it and I saw it. And I think we need to come together as a group and make the decision as a group. And I'll just leave it at that, you know. If it's rescinding that part of it, I say you rescind the whole doggone thing.
Well, okay, cool. Well, then let's have a vote. Do I have a motion to accept as written?
Can we have roll call, please? Julie?
Well, we need a motion first.
Okay, so moved.
Okay, do I have a second? All right, so without a second, there is no vote. We can discuss striking the language, which already has been discussed, the highlighted language, which is no board member may be considered for election to the position of president unless the member has fully completed at the time of election all NMSBA required training for new board members. If we strike that, right, then we can vote on it stricken. Do we have a motion to accept with that language stricken?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I second.
We have a motion made by Ms. Morales and a second made by Ms. Sanchez with this policy without the added language, so striking that last part. All those, we want a roll call?
Roll call,
Okay.
please.
Alan Getty,
Yes.
James Edwards,
Yes.
Hope Morales,
Yes.
Lana Kirk,
No.
Hilda Sanchez.
Yes.
All right. Then that's done. Board norms, we have our board norms coming up. We discussed this at the special meeting. Hopefully you guys all have your computers or have them sitting in front of you.
I do.
So, do I have a motion to accept the board norms?
Okay, Mr. President,
Yes.
members of the board, I recommend approval of the 2019-2020 board norms. However, this is the first formal reading.
This
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
So not a second reading,
Second.
so this is the first
First.
formal
Right.
reading. So that brings it up for discussion also.
Yeah. Do we have any discussion on this? I thought that Hugh did a good job.
He did.
Did you?
I think so too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it's really good.
I like it.
So, all right. Well, then we don't really vote on a first reading. So my fault on that one. All right. Next, were there any questions?
No.
Okay, good. I didn't hear any. All right, so next we have the options for the superintendent search. So here's you guys all, I sent you guys an email about the options for the superintendent search, so, does anybody need to go over the options? Or I'll go over them just very quickly. I'm not gonna
Okay.
read the whole thing, okay?
Yeah.
Option number 1 is the internal search with internal candidates. Okay? That's the one we talked about, where Mr. Gottlieb would
Mentor.
take however many we decide and would put them through a long interview process, like an internship almost. And we don't have any of the deals on how that process is out or anything, but if we voted to go that way, Mr. Gottlieb would work with us to make that process smooth and go through that. So there's that one. The second one is a board-directed internal search with internal and external candidates, where we take resumes. When I say internal search, what I mean by that is that our HR department and Mr. Gottlieb will handle doing all the heavy lifting, going through the process of looking at resumes, making sure that they're qualified for what qualifications we want. Even if we chose to go with that route, we would still have to set a process up and vote on it at the March meeting. The third choice is using the NMSBA search service, which is kind of what we did last time. You guys saw I put a price down. So there's that one. And then final, I know that this one's probably not even on our realm of thinking, is the headhunter, where we go out and we hire a firm to just hire us a superintendent.
No.
So I'll open it up for discussion, what you guys think, and then what we'll do is probably, if we can just come up with an idea of where we're headed, we'll probably just get a motion on one of the options, and somebody will make that motion in a second, and we'll go for a vote. So, discussion?
Is it, okay, well, I wrote down I like the option number 2. And the reason I like option number 2 is because we still have pretty much the control of it. And it doesn't knock people out of the box from being able to apply for that job, for that position. Option number 1 sounded like to me that, hey, there's gonna be a group of people that will be picked, not from us, but from, I guess, is it from HR?
If you look at option number 1, they'll send in applications, resumes, we will pick who goes through the process.
So option 1 and 2 are pretty much, they
Similar.
sound pretty much.
They're pretty close to the same. The difference is option 1, internal candidates only, and they're gonna be mentored by Mr. Gottlieb through a process, and at the end of the process, we will then pick a superintendent out of that group. Option 2
Right.
goes back to kind of like what we did last time, only the difference is that our HR and Mr. Gottlieb are going to head the heavy lifting of it.
See, I like that. The reason I like option 2 is because it still includes Mr. Gottlieb, and it also includes HR, and they're doing the heavy lifting.
Absolutely.
And I think if we go that route, we're gonna be very successful in that, because it's internal as well as external. One of the questions that I was gonna pose is, if we go with the external, can we because there's people out there that have left the district that might be interested in coming back. And to me, you know, once part of the family, you should always be part of the family. And some people have left and they would like to come back.
Well, they would be included in an external
Right.
candidate.
And I think that we should give them that option, because people are gonna be familiar with a lot of those names.
And Mr. President, I agree with Mr. Edwards. I don't want to limit the candidates that can apply. This is going to be one of the most important decisions that we make as a board. So we have to and we have great applicants in-house, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to limit that. And I think as part of our process, if Mr. Gottlieb is willing, perhaps we can arrange some type of a mentorship no matter what, so that we can help keep them along to help train them, because I really do like that component of option number 1. I just don't want to limit the applications that we're getting.
Okay.
And I concur. The other thing I would like to add is, would it be possible, I would like for us to, because this we've got to get it right this time, board members. We have been through interim board superintendents, interim superintendents for the past 4 years, 5 years. We've had 3 that, and it's just, we've got to get it right this time. So may I add, would it be possible to see if Mr. Gottlieb would be willing to stay on a full calendar year to help us get through this, so we have some stability, so we can move forward? That gives us a little bit more time to get our ducks in a row. That gives him more time to get everything done that he's given us, that he sees as an issue, because right now, he's killing himself.
We actually can't even talk about that. That's a contract issue, and we can't talk about that with him in the room and in public. So
And board, your real issue is determining
We are not
your
determining
selection
that.
process. It'll be 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you can change your language in 1, 2, or 3, or 4.
Absolutely.
But
Okay.
it needs to be just on your process of
Okay.
selection.
That's all
Okay,
we're doing
thank you,
tonight,
thank
so.
you.
Um,
Well, thanks for stopping me before I went on.
yes,
Mr.
Ms.
President, I'd just like to say that we need to incorporate input from our community also,
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely, that would be included.
Okay.
Once we pick the process,
Then we
then
can
in
go to the
March, we
circuit.
will actually have like,
Gotcha.
kind of an outline of what we're gonna do. This is literally just, how are we gonna go about this?
So, Mr.
Okay.
President, are we gonna have 2 board members kind of work to develop a framework or outline that we can then present to the rest of the board on what it could look like?
Well,
or-
we will,
what's that
since we are
process?
going to include our HR department in the process, it would include Mr. Gottlieb, our HR department, they would, and we would work with the process with them. So there would be 2 board members involved in that, or 1, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
They're
For
gonna
all
come
of
up
us,
with
we
it.
could do it during a workshop.
Yeah, we would have some way of figuring that out. We really just have to figure out how we're gonna do it. So that's the part that we're at right now. So from what I'm gathering, I would guess that we would wanna go with option 2 based on what I heard. But, I can't make that decision. I need a motion.
I make a
So-
motion.
Second.
What?
Second.
Go ahead. Stop me, Mr. Gottlieb.
Stop.
Yeah, he's gotta.
Oh, yeah, you need to do that.
Mr. President, members of the board, after listening to discussion and what has been said, I recommend approval of option number 2 for the superintendent search.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Edwards,
No, I
second
think I
made by
heard
Ms.
second.
Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Thank you guys for that discussion. That was helpful. All right, next we have Resolution 2004, moratorium to pause the NMRHCA, did I miss one? No, okay. Healthcare subsidy rule change. All right,
Mr. President, members of the board,
Fine.
I recommend approval of the resolution 19-20-04A, moratorium to pause the NMRHCA healthcare subsidy rule change.
now this is, which one is this?
Yeah,
This one is where the subs, right? Where we can bring in more,
Mr. Cole?
healthcare.
So, yes, Mr. Gottlieb, President Getty, I don't have this one, and I didn't submit this one, but I would assume that this is the New Mexico Retiree Healthcare
yeah, this is the
Act.
New Mexico Health Retiree Act.
Let me
And I can't speak to that with regard to.
verify that real quick.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. So there is an issue with substitute teachers that would take place as of July
Yes.
1.
Right.
This is, yes, the resolution.
Yeah.
I'm
This is the
sorry.
resolution. No, it's okay.
This is
We had a
the,
lot.
and this is Senate Bill 111.
Yeah, you're right.
This is
Yep.
Senate Bill 111, and we need to show support as a school board that we want them to change this. I know it's on everybody's radar at Santa Fe right now because we actually have some school districts that do no longer have any subs because the
Right.
teachers cannot come back after they've retired and fill those positions with the way it's written, so,
Without sitting out a full calendar year.
full calendar year.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
thank you.
all right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I knew what it was about, I just couldn't express it properly.
May I add just, I'm sorry, may I just add one thing to that, because it's critically important that everybody understand, particularly if you're talking to legislators. As of July 1, the way it's written currently, our substitutes would have to pay into retirement. And so, and this is, and I understand, Ms. Goodwin, at the retiree healthcare, she's trying to fund that, and bless her for doing that. But the problem is you're looking at subs, which don't make much to begin with, so you're taking out retirement on them, which makes it impossible for them to keep doing that in most cases. And then you're looking at a drop in the bucket, and oh, by the way, it's a decreasing drop in the bucket, because the minute this hits, you lose them. You just lose them. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole.
One thing, guys, just so you guys know, we have to change one thing on it. I just looked at it, and I was reading it. I don't know how I missed it other times, but in the bold on the second page, it says, "We believe that the new NMRHCA rule should be changed to reflect a grandfather clause for all Tier 1 employees." So we want to change that when we get it all done, so.
Tier 1, yeah.
We'll fix that. Is there any other discussion on this?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second made by Ms. Morales. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have the Census 2020 Resolution 1925.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the Census 2020 Resolution 19-20/5.
All right, and this basically was, you guys can read it. Did we have any discussion?
No, and I want to thank Mr. Nava for
Yes.
bringing his
Yeah, no
information
kidding.
forward, and this kind of piggybacks off of it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have an RFP recommendation for, I didn't ask what that was.
Wide Area Network.
Wide Area Network Services,
Oh,
okay.
good.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the RFP for recommendation for the Wide Area Network Service.
All right. Any discussion? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Kirk, second made by Ms. Sanchez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Next, we have an RFP for furniture.
Mr. President, members of the board, I recommend approval of the RFP for furniture.
Okay, is there any discussion? No? All right. If not, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Sanchez and a second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. All right, next we have reports. Mr. Gottlieb will
No,
start us off.
we have one more item.
Did I miss one?
New bus purchase.
Yes.
The buses.
Dad, burn it. My mom never did, so
New bus
I let him
purchase.
did it. I recommend approval of the new bus purchases.
Mr.
Student
President, members of the board,
transportation.
This is a lot.
I recommend approval of the new bus purchases, student transportation contract adjustment, and that's for 3 buses.
3 buses. Any discussion?
So will these be owned by RISD or by Pollard's or Hamel?
Mr. Cole,
Sorry.
we've gone over this discussion already.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So they will be owned by the bus contractors, but we will be providing lease increase to cover the cost of those buses. So these are 12-year-old bus replacements. You've got 2 medium, 1 large, so 2 to Hamel, 1 to Pollard. And again, they're just cycling through old buses and replacing those. But yes, they will hold the contract on those, or the title. Yes.
Okey-doke. All right, any other discussion? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
A motion made by Ms. Morales, do I have a second?
Second.
Second made by Mr. Edwards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Now we get to come to reports.
In your agenda items are the personnel items within the school district that we submit to you for your review. It's not for approval or anything, it's just some, for information as we move forward. I stand for any questions.
I have just a couple of questions, I
Okay.
promise. But thank you, Mr. Gottlieb and Mr. Hill, for getting us that exit survey data. That was very valuable and helpful. Thank you so much for getting it to us so quickly. I wanted to point out just 2 questions that really stood out to me and the data and got me a little bit excited because it gives me hope that we can get some people back in our district. Question number 13, and it was related to, could the district have done something better to keep them as an employee? And we actually had 33% of them that agreed with that. So I think it's hopeful because if there were follow-up conversations or if there can be in the future, perhaps there's something we can change to keep them. But the one that really excited me was question 15, where 74% of the employees said that they would actually consider future employment at RASD. So I don't know what the process is, or if in the coming months, if we could send a letter to these individuals giving them a list of the openings that we have available, any incentives that we may have, like the moving stipend, and just remind them and invite them to reapply within the district. So
Ms.
just,
Morales, real quick, that information came from Medea Trujillo. She was the one that put that together. I asked her to share, that's not been shared with the board for several years. I don't know how long, but we used to share that with the board when I was back before. It was something that Mrs. Ponce started, so we're talking 15, 20 years ago. I don't know what happened to it, but Medea was able to go back and reassess those things. And I found it very interesting to read that stuff, and I think it's something important that the board should notice as they move forward. So, Medea, she has some questions for you.
Sure. So the first thing that we let our employees know as they're leaving the district is that everything that they respond to will be confidential. And so while we have a list of who those people are, just like on the personnel report, you see who's leaving the district and why, their answers are confidential. So we want to assure them that is confidential. I think that's a great idea, though we can certainly send out that information as to what openings there are, what other benefits we have, whether it's a stipend, increments, moving, relocation things. But that is, I think it's just really helpful for us to see how we're doing in every aspect and to be able to improve upon that.
and it'd be awesome if you could keep us updated once the letters go back, if anybody actually does respond to it or reapplies because of it.
We can do that, certainly.
And the last comment was, now that RESD has this new position related to media and communications, I see that they create lots of really cool short videos on programs or things that are happening in the district. To me, I wish we would leverage that as a tool to really highlight certain positions within the district that we need, for example, high school math teachers. So why can't we create this really cool video with high school math teachers, spotlight some of our high schools, the programs we have, awards that we've done, and share the application link at the end of the video. I think that's just another way. We're in the world of technology, social media. We have this really cool tool in-house. Why not use it to target those positions that we really need to fill?
Okay.
Thank you.
Great idea.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, anything else on the personnel report? Finances.
Yes, sir. So if I could entertain any questions that you might have, you've got the year-to-date revenue and expenditure report there in front of you for all of our funds. You'll notice that the revenues on the budget show up as a negative. Revenues carry a credit balance, so there's usually some questions about that, but anything I can answer?
Mr. Cole, I just wanted to thank you. I requested to have a one-on-one training with Mr. Cole to better understand the 300-page report that he provides us. And he met with me that week to kind of
Thank
go
you.
over it, to answer questions, listen to ideas, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Just remind the board, don't forget to wear your badges when you go in the building. I haven't told the building principals yet because our meeting is Thursday, but the board are always welcome in our schools in our central office. So thank you for caring about coming into our schools, visiting with the staff and the principals, and see what their day is like. Sometimes you may not want to see what their day is like, but it's
Or
very
be
nice for you to be
reminded.
out there and visit with
Yep.
them.
I agree.
Late in and early release. As you know, board, we now have, as you heard, I should have thought of the Spanish, I just slipped up on that. We're doing a parent survey on the late in, early out. I had done a survey of the administration and administrators. Due to the requirements we have, we're gonna have to work with the union on a couple issues, because the elementary have that time that they need to prepare. But the way the surveys turned out is they would like to have it all at the same time. That means on Wednesday afternoon at 1:45, the entire district releases at the same time. So the parents don't have to find a different alternative route, or we don't have to spend more money for buses, they don't have to find babysitters, and all the things that we're running across, plus the attendance rate, the amount of tardies is tremendous. The principals and the secretaries are having to deal with in their buildings. It's just, it's not a good thing. And we're losing kids not coming to school. So the suggestion that came from the principals and the administrative staff was, if we're gonna do this, we need to do it as everybody out at the same time on Wednesday. On that same issue, though, is at the next board meeting, the staff will bring to you a 3-year calendar. It's very important that we get that in front of you and the community, too.
So I have a question, Mr. Gottlieb. What would that do to sports in our secondary?
Well, in my opinion, and this is my opinion only, it's a two-tiered thing. I think we need to give our professional practitioners, our teachers, some time to prepare, and it should be uninterrupted, period, end of story. And then we need 2 days where we can provide some professional development in a month. So you have usually 4, sometimes you have 5 in a month, just depending how it falls. So that issue of sports doesn't come into my mind at all, because that starts after we're finished with the day. I know that is one of those issues that has come up, but I also remember a time on Wednesday that we didn't have any activities at all.
Right.
It was a totally non-eventful day. It was school only and school items only. Somewhere over the time, sports and other activities, and it is other activities, so I don't want to just lump sports as the only issue, expanded on to Wednesday. So in my opinion, and I'm only here for however time you want me, is that that should not be the issue. The issue should be protecting our teachers' time in the classroom, and then providing some professional development, which is going to be a requirement under the new law that they are passing up, and it will pass.
Right.
So we have to provide an ongoing, supportive, systemic approach to professional development.
I know one of the issues was when the kids in secondary, middle school and high school, middle school especially, if they go home at 1:45, getting them back would be difficult for practice, for whatever. So I thought that would be an issue that might prevent that from happening, but I'm open for suggestions. I don't know how we're going to handle that for other activities.
I'll tell you that, because we had this discussion too, I think that, I see parents that take their kids out of school on Friday to go to tournaments over the weekend. I see parents that take their kids out of school on Monday because they were at a tournament for weekends. They figure out a way to do it then. I think they can figure out a way to do it on Wednesdays for those seasons. I really do. I mean, I hate to sound mean, but I think that we've got to focus on what we have to do. I think we're affecting a lot more parents with the late in than we will with the early release.
Yeah.
And frankly, in middle school, and maybe I'm just not as much of an athletics fan as I think I am, But you know, they don't have to have practice every Wednesday. They can stop practice on Wednesday. Most of them are gonna play a game on Thursday anyway. They played a game on Tuesday. I think especially in middle school, maybe they should go back to maybe hanging out with their family. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Gottlieb, is it still an option for athletics and other clubs to meet maybe for an early morning practice on Wednesday or come back at 3:30 at the end of the day? Will there still be flexibility?
They can come back after 3:30, yes. What I want to try to do is protect that teacher time.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, I'm quite honest with that. That just, I see what the teachers are doing in the classrooms, and I haven't hit every building, but I've tried real hard. I see what they're doing and how they're struggling. They need some time to prepare.
They do.
And so I'm kind of obnoxious when it comes to that.
And have those times,
So-
that time to collaborate.
And we need the time for professional development. So it's just one of those things, what are we here for? And I know athletics, I know band, I know all these things bring our kids or keep them in school. I know that. You're talking to a former band student. So I fully understand that. But our goal is education
First. Yeah,
first.
absolutely.
And then teachers need time to prepare for that education in the classroom. And we need our professional development to help systemically move them around, not scattered. So that's, you asked for it, you got it.
Is this something that, now this is obviously completely out of, I have no idea, but if you did the survey and this came back on the survey, are we gonna let the survey sit a little bit longer? In
Right now,
Spanish?
it's out there for a minimum of 3 weeks.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So that, I mean, that gives people a lot of time, and we'll get the Spanish out there some way, one way or another.
Yeah.
My always concern is, most people don't understand this, there's a Spanish translation and there's real Spanish. And if we don't get it right into real Spanish, people make fun of us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but you're talking to somebody, we spoke 5 languages in our house. So if you don't get it right, you're kind of losing your face of education. So we'll work
So a
on that.
minimum of 3 weeks, or a maximum of 3 weeks?
It's, right now, I just said 3 weeks, but we can extend that.
Okay.
All right.
And
So
just-
I'm sorry, so business as usual until we
Exactly.
collect the
Unless you
data.
tell me different, Mr. Edwards. I know your feelings, so. Mr. Edwards and I had a very long discussion on the early in or late in, whatever they want to call it.
And I just want to make one more point on the athletics because I am a parent of different athletes within the school district. Can we at least make sure the AD is available to coaches or whoever to help them think of other alternatives or ideas because it is going to have an impact on our student athletes and parents. So I just want to make sure that they feel supported to learn options or what other things that they can do.
I don't have a problem with that, I really don't, but I want to protect that period of time. They want to come afterwards, they're more than welcome, that's not an issue. They want to come earlier and then get the kids there earlier, that's great, but I don't, we have a community problem right now. Let's be honest, the community is very upset
Right.
with this middle school, high school laid in. And we're not educating the kids appropriately because we have a lot of tardies and a lot of absences. So we need to let them vent and tell us how they feel, and then we move forward from there. So, but if the coaches want to be able to do that, band wants to do that, orchestra wants to do that, I mean, I'm for all those things. But there's some other things we need to pay attention to. Okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. The student data will be in March. I'll try not to bore you all with so much stuff, but that's just my nature, is to bring out everything. Student and counselor information you saw this evening. Mr. President, that's all I have.
All right, the one thing I have, first of all, is the Equity Council. We got some news about the Equity Council as far as dates that the state wanted us to do, so we are holding off on that until our Andrea Nieto Walker can go and get the training and come back, and she might be able to help us before we present that. So those of you that have applied, we're not ignoring you, we're getting information from the state, and as we get it, we go, oh, we'll do it this way then. So hopefully they'll get us what we need rather quickly.
Well, Mr. Getty, may I piggyback off that and say I want to thank our two board members that worked on putting the information together for us, because we did get several applications, and we were getting down to the wire from the first round of dates we were giving. So Ms. Morales, Ms. Sanchez, thank you both so much for putting together the data for us and helping us to look at this information. Thank you. Ms. Silva.
All right, and I don't remember asking for this. This must have been something you guys decided on. Who asked for this?
Policy, who's going to be on the committee?
Yeah.
It's-
Oh, we did at the last
Yeah.
meeting, okay.
Yeah,
I thought we were waiting until March for that, so I apologize.
But
So the policy committee needs 2 members. You meet over policy.
yeah,
And we'll get the policies in from the New Mexico
MSBA,
School Board Association stuff, and you'll go over that.
And from Mike Gottlieb, I promise you.
yeah.
From Mike.
But Mr. Getty, there's 2 committees that weren't on here, and it's the Healthcare Solutions and the Parks and Rec that are subcommittees, I guess. That
Well, we can do those in March too. Did you get that, to do those in March?
do we need those committees set?
We don't even need these committees set right now. I had already asked Chad about that we could have waited till March,
Oh, okay.
but we're good to set them too. I'm okay. We're not.
Okay.
So, but we just need volunteers for policy committee.
I'll do policy again.
Does anybody else want to do policy? Okay, we got Hilda and Mona. For policy committee, budget committee,
I would like to be on that committee.
I'd like to be on that one also.
Bless you.
Bless you.
we have Mr.
hold on.
Edwards and Miss Morales on the budget committee.
Wait, he wants to change his mind.
Was I on your audit committee?
It was on, yeah.
You were on both,
You were on both.
budget and audit.
Okay.
Are you okay with
Yeah,
that?
I'll be on
Okay.
that.
Okay, and then the audit committee.
I'll serve on that one.
I'd like to do that again.
Okay, Mona and Mr. Edwards.
So then the Healthcare Solutions, would a board member like to serve on that one?
And it's just one member?
It's
Just one member for that.
Okay,
I
I'll
guess
stay
I
on
can
it
do it.
then.
I can do it.
Oh, you don't mind? Okay, thank you.
The health and what?
Okay,
And then the Parks and Rec, Mr. Edwards, are you staying
Yeah, I'm
on?
on that, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Edwards can
He
stay on.
serves 2 capacities, or 2
Okay,
seats.
well, look at that. If we have more that we have to do, we'll know about them. Okay, then that's it for our unfinished business. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Education of Roswell Independent School District will meet in executive session pursuant to NMSA 10-15-1H pending litigation, 10-15-1H7. May I have a motion to go into executive session regarding pending litigation?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made by Ms. Kirk and a second made by Ms. Sanchez. May I have a roll call, please?
Alan Getty?
Yes.
James Edwards?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Hope Morales?
Yes.
Mona Kurt?
Yes.
Hilda Sanchez?
Yes.
Okay.